record this. Okay. So I'm really excited to have MaPi with us. So MaPi is actually a dear friend of mine, and I am a huge fan of her brand, Uma Ceramics. MaPi is an architectural designer, an Ayurvedic health coach, and a yoga instructor, and a potter. Her company is based in Bolivia, and she kind of just brings wellness together with, I would say, just beauty and art. And yeah, we're just going to dive right in and tell you a little bit more about her company. So MaPi, I would love to hear first, what inspired you to create Uma Ceramics? So you can tell us a bit about like what is Uma Ceramics and what inspired you to create the company.
Yeah, so Uma Ceramics kind of came out of this desire to bridge my knowledge of design with my desire to help and support the community of my hometown. And it felt that it was a really good way of pushing the boundaries of tradition, of pottery, and also bringing back this kind of method of ceramics that is kind of dying down in Bolivia. Unfortunately, a lot of artisans here are resorting to mold made ceramics, and I wanted to go back to this wheel thrown pottery, but also elevate the design with my background in architecture and all of that. At the same time, I'm like looking to get products that really connect people. So it's about slow living, it's about connecting to yourself, rituals for yourself in a way that's super accessible, and it's a nice token to just like ground you really quickly into yourself. Yeah.
I love that. And I love that when you were talking about like a lot of ceramics are made from molds, your pieces are unique, right? So every single piece is handmade and it's unique, if I'm not mistaken.
100%. It is interesting to work with artisans with the wheel. Some that are getting back to it don't have the I guess the time that they've spent to really hone that craft. So I have to get really specific with artists I work with to push their quality and create something that is really something to be proud of that's made in Bolivia. I think that's a really important thing for me.
Yeah. And tell us a little bit about just the inspiration you had to support artisans in Bolivia, because I think that's probably one of my favorite parts of your company. I love that you support local artists in Bolivia. There's a lot of entrepreneurs actually in Ecom Connect that sell products in order to support their artisans in their country. So I would love to hear just what inspired that as well.
Honestly, it's been something that's like been around me and my life and my family since, growing up in Bolivia. It's something that's very present, that there's artisans that are super talented that don't get the light of day, and that we can connect with on a personal basis to support their lives. And what I did was initially I started going to fairs, and I started sourcing a bunch of artisans to see what they could do and if they could produce these kind of more minimalistic designs. But I've landed on doing this kind of concept where instead of just finding artisans and then having them do the work for me, it's more of me investing time into them. So I don't have thousands of artisans that work with me. It's a specific set that I am really taking care of, making sure they're okay. When you get at that level, you're working with taking care of the health of their families. You're also like, some of them are more young and live with their parents, so they're supporting their parents through this craft. It's just become much bigger than having things done through the craft of pottery. It's more of this community of artisans that are pushing themselves in this kind of platform that will guarantee projects. It's not just making artisan goods for a fair that's just like 5 times a year. It's something that I can guarantee production and make sure that they're growing as I am growing as well.
Yeah, I love that. And that I think is wonderful that you can create that job stability for them as well.
Mm-hmm.
Just a side note to everyone in here, if ever you have questions, you can put them in the chat. I can see the chat going on. We can ask MaPi questions as we go, and we're also going to keep some time for Q&A at the end. So feel free to ask your questions. Okay, let's talk a little bit about your architectural background, because I think that's so interesting. And I see the influence of it in the products that are created, but also in your marketing. We'll get into that in a second. But how has your background in architecture inspired the creations of Uma and just your whole philosophy behind Uma?
Yeah, you know, I had a really great experience in architecture school where I was taught more of a way, more of design thinking. I don't know if you're familiar with that, but basically the way that we went around projects, on one side, it's like, you know, design, we're looking at case studies and looking at design in present time, what are things being made, and getting inspired through that. But at the same time, it was something that was a way of processing problems that I continue to use. It's given a problem and then not being scared to create a solution, and then a few different solutions and seeing which goes well, which doesn't, and then reiterating and reiterating. It gives me a lot of liberty, but I keep that like design aspect that I learned in architecture school, and the way that I work with my artisans is very specific to getting these designs made and crafted so that they have that quality and that aesthetic that I am looking to achieve. But at the same time, it's something that I can cultivate with this kind of a method of thinking and methodology.
Yeah. So you still create the designs for each piece, and then you send them to the artisans, and then the artisans make the actual individual piece.
Yeah.
Right. And is there only one of each piece that is made, or is there several of the same design, for example?
So I create, let's say, a collection, a style of design. So it will be, let's say, all the mugs are their own collection, but I also have one for like pottery that is more for plants and things of that nature. And each one has like their own style, but I present a style and a plan to the artisans, and then I get a production made with them. Initially, we start out slow to see what the capabilities are of the artisans, and then we see what we can achieve to also make it interesting for them to have this work and this income coming in.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay, so let's go a little bit into marketing, because I love how you approach marketing for Uma Ceramics. I think it's multi-layered, it's deep, and it creates, for me, one of the most important things in marketing is to create an emotional connection with your followers, users, potential clients, right? And so I would love to hear a little bit about your thoughts on marketing and how your architectural background and your background in wellness inspires your content that goes out on social media, because you have very much of, it's like, I don't know how could I explain it? It's like a soft but powerful presence that you have. There's a lot of storytelling, and there's a way in which you feature your products. It's just very inspiring. So I would love to hear a little bit more about that.
Yeah, branding and marketing actually happened early on for me. It wasn't something that I wanted to think about secondarily. I felt that it was really important to express what this brand and this way of interacting on social media and just my platforms, even my website. Like, what is the story behind Uma? Uma means water, and that to me automatically is something to bring in as you're approaching a brand, that softens you.
Yeah.
I thought that that was like super important, with the brand aesthetic. That to me was super important, to keep this kind of neutral and calm palette, that ties in with that story that's super important of what is this brand, what is this lifestyle. And initially it was a way of bridging everything together, and at the same time it felt that the brand kind of became its own identity, so it was really really easy to tell the story through this lens that I created very carefully early on, and starting to think, okay, what does it mean when a new let's say we recently, Instagram recently launched Reels. What does it mean for Uma to have a presence in Reels that's not this kind of like bombarding, showy kind of thing? It keeps that marketing aesthetic and storytelling that drops you in, slows you down, and connects. The other aspect of the branding and the marketing that I think is really important for me is that it's not mass marketing. It's very much of connection and a new way of connecting with object and commerce. So instead of buy, it's more of this piece matters. It has a story, and you bring it into your home, and it means something. So what often happens is the kind of people that are approaching me for goods, there are a lot of times for gifts. It's something that they thought of for another person that goes in line with them, or something that they want to, a feeling that they want to gift them. So even in the packaging, you have these kind of ritual suggestions. It's something to slow you down every step of the way.
I love that. I have chills. So what I think is so important in how you do your marketing is the consistency in the core values behind your brand. And I often say this to entrepreneurs when I'm coaching, is that like to think about, how do you want people to feel when they have a touch point with your brand, right? So like for you, it's like calm and grounded, for example. My business would be like empowered and inspired. And then everything you put out, right, needs to be a reflection of that. And so you do such a wonderful job of creating that consistent feeling throughout your social media, your website. Like any touch point we have with Uma is the same, and it's consistent. And what that creates for customers is clarity and trust. So they know what to expect, they know what you're about, and then that's where connection happens, and long-term sustainable relationships with followers and clients. So yeah, I just think that you do such a great job at that.
Thank you.
Yeah, and I love also what you're talking about like not like mass marketing and like slow intentional marketing. And I think for everybody, even if you don't have a brand that's revolved around lifestyle like yours is, I think that approach, especially right now, is so important, because especially with COVID, everyone went online, and then we just all got bombarded and saturated with marketing, right? So there's so much noise out there now. We scroll and we're actually not even paying attention to what's going by. So creating content that is intentional and that stands out, and that matters. Like I love what you said about, when that piece, when you buy that piece, it matters when you bring it into your home, it matters. And I think that's so important in marketing. So thank you for sharing that.
It goes beyond that, right? It's something that, you know, for me, when you buy something, there's a much larger effect, even like monetarily, there's a larger impact to what you're purchasing. And to me, it's really important. For instance, my impact goes directly to the artisans and their growth. So
Yeah.
if I'm buying a mug that is not, it's mass produced, it's not the same impact to specific people as something like this that's slower and has more behind it, you know, to bring awareness to the consumer and buyer and client that there's a larger network that you're supporting when you are purchasing from Uma.
Yeah. And I think that's really important for entrepreneurs to get really clear. And sometimes we need to backtrack and then get clear on that. Like sometimes we move forward in business and then we need to come back to what are our core values, right? So getting really clear on that. What is the impact we want to create through our business? And then making sure that story is told through your brand all the time. You don't need to always be just talking about your product. You can talk about the journey of how this came to fruition. What was the, like the other day I was talking with a jewelry designer and she was talking about how each piece has there's an inspiration behind it, and her next line was going to be inspired by the ocean. And so like that whole story of the creation of the piece, like that's what people want to hear. That's where connection is created. So I love that. Let's talk a little bit more about impact. So the impact you shared, that the impact you want to make is specifically on the artisans in Bolivia. Is there anything else in the kind of impact you want Uma to have? Or is it really around the artisans?
You know, I really am excited about the artisans and creating this community that is bettering themselves all the time. That being said, I am actually really looking forward to being able to support women. I feel that especially in Bolivia, there's a lot of cultures in Bolivia, native traditions within Bolivia that are matriarchal. So I want that to be my next step. Even with my sourcing, I'm looking for women artisans now because of the impact that a woman has on her family and her community. That's my next step for sure, and that's what I'm excited about. And also working with foundations here for, let's say, a product line or something like that, where I can have a more direct impact beyond the artisan community that I have.
I also feel, I don't even know if you like, because sometimes we don't even see the genius behind the work that we do, right? It's kind of in our blind spot, but I feel like part of the impact that your company is making also is on wellness and like intentional living, because everything that goes through on your feed, every time I see something go by, I feel like I stop and I breathe, and there's something that happens there. And so your company is creating a huge impact there as well, which I think is really wonderful.
Yeah, thank you for calling that out. It's definitely not something that I think about, but it is the intention behind the whole thing, and spreading that message through something as simple as a brand.
Yeah. And I'm actually going to just pop the link right now for the Uma Ceramic Instagram in the chat so you guys can take a peek. I'd love to know, I want to just backtrack to marketing and branding 1 second, and then I want to go back to impact. Entrepreneurs often struggle with the practical side of marketing and branding, and like, when is it time to invest and having people support you and all of that stuff. So do you do all of your marketing yourself? Do you have support? Like, your visuals are beautiful. Everything is it's a very elevated style of marketing. So I'm curious if you do that all on your own or if you have support.
You know, a lot of it from the beginning, a lot of it from was my architecture. It was from my architecture background, and wanting to get this aesthetic across. Then, and you know, the ability that I have of the tools available to me. So Adobe Suite, things of that nature. At the same time, when it came to the specific branding, the logo, all of that, I actually reached out to a graphic designer friend that I had worked with. And it was very, you know, a small business starting off, it was very specific and cared to what I was going to need. And then I was able to extrapolate from that using my tools for a while. At this point, I can no longer do it all. So I have hired on some help for the social media management, and starting to create my vision longer term so that I actually can sit down at the end of a month and I know what I'm going to be talking about 2 weeks out, and how I'm going to be saying that. And at the same time, I'm really clear that I'm getting at all these touch points that I want to have within my brand. So the process of how it's made is you know, an important touch point for me. The lifestyle is a really important touch point for me. And then the inspiration and weaving all of that through pictures of Bolivia, all of that is really important to like tell the story. And without the help, I felt that I was just getting overwhelmed and having to do a lot of sourcing myself that I didn't have time for anymore. So that was the next investment that I did in the branding scheme, which wasn't, you know, it's not like I don't mean that you have to go crazy and go find somebody that's like super high end for your social media marketing. Like even just having an intern that does it for you so that you know what's going in is really helpful, and just slowly adding things that are going to help delegate the task force that I had taken on early on.
Yeah, I think there's wisdom in having your hands in it on your own at the beginning, because you can really, you can kind of mold the structure of what you want to see go out. And then when you can, being able to step back so you can stay in the visionary CEO role, because no one else can do that, right? I think that's something that's so important that entrepreneurs need to remember. The vision and the running of this business and like the growth of it, you are the only person who could do that. So you need to be able to step back and put yourself in that position. I think as soon as you can, or when you can. So, okay, so now let's go back to impact a little bit. I wanted to ask you, because yesterday, it's interesting, we had a coffee and connect session in Ecom Connect. And one of the questions I asked that we were talking about is like, what is the impact that you want to make with your business? And it was so incredible to hear, like, everybody in the room had a vision for the impact they wanted to make through their business. How do you balance making an impact and then the success of your business? Because sometimes it feels like we need to choose one or the other, or it's like, how much time or energy do I put into the impact piece and then the actual success of the business? Because without the success of the business, you can't make the impact you want to make, right? So I'm curious of your thoughts on that and how you balance that.
Yeah, I mean, for me, you know, the success of the business means that I support lives, and that is huge. Like that is very clear to me. And going back to your you know, talk about the leadership role, I actually went through this kind of reflection of like, okay, what is my role in my business and what are my responsibilities? And one of my responsibilities is that the business succeeds in order for me to have an impact on the communities that I support. So without me guaranteeing the success, I cannot in any way support people. And my impact is greatly diminished without my own success. It's definitely something that I've had to come to terms with because, you know, I've had this maybe internalization of success being bad and impact being good, but they're so tied together that it's more important that I recognize and internalize that my impact is dependent on my success, and I have to take care of my success, no matter what.
So that's pretty much the priority first, really. Like that's where you put your energy first, and then that will inevitably create the impact that you choose.
Yeah, but it's hard, when you're running a business, you're running logistics, you're running social media, you're running shipment, you're running new designs. In my case, I'm, doing the design work behind it. It's tough to, like, I've spent so much time in the structure and the logistics behind it that you lose track of the need for success, but you need that to maintain that the other. So there's times where you have to focus in the area that needs the most care in order for you to succeed, but that's the end goal for the impact that you want to create.
Yeah. Okay. I love it. And what has been, I'd love to go look at two questions. The first is, what has been your biggest struggle in creating this business and this brand and growing it? And then what has worked the best for you in terms of growing and sales? Yeah, let's start with like the pain point piece. Like what has been the biggest struggle for you, or the thing you've had to overcome?
I feel like a big thing for me was that that taking care of the messaging and staying true to that messaging without just blurting out sale here, sale there, sale over there. That's been really tough to make sure that like I'm super true to the brand and the business that I'm creating. And on the other side, having to, cope with, am I making sales? Like, if I stay true to my story and my brand, do I connect with people in a way that still incentivizes sale? With the second question, I think the biggest thing for me that has been super impactful and super inspiring is my network. I didn't realize that I had such a network and network ability even to grow business. It's been super organic, and something that I remind myself of is that my magnetism happens in community. So I need the network to survive. And what's been really great is having a network that believes in my brand and talks about my brand in a way that reflects its values.
Yeah.
So that's given me opportunities to be in restaurants and be in stores that are about eco-commerce and things of that nature that are super in line with what I believe in. But without those connections, I wouldn't have had access to those stores. And even in the US, because I bridge US and Bolivia for commerce. In the US, it's also been my network, somebody reaching out to me saying they want to show my pieces, and then somebody seeing the pieces from them and wanting more pieces and wanting specific designs. It's been super organic, and also has lessened my intimidation to selling larger scope, because I know that my network is supporting me through this growth.
Yeah, absolutely. Okay, you were frozen for a sec, but you're back. I think that, networking is a huge part of Ecom Connect. Like we really believe in it. We even have a series on network with the community, because collaborations and just friendships that you can make along your business journey can have such a huge impact on your success, because what ends up happening is what you're talking about is like this organic cross marketing, right? People having complementary products or complementary services, and referring or talking about each other's services or products. And then it's just like this I always see this as like a spider web, you know, that just keeps getting like bigger and bigger and broader, and that is what becomes your community. So how and doing it in a way that's like connecting with people in an authentic way, not with like an agenda behind it, but really just getting to know the person and the company. I mean, that's really how we met and how we created a friendship together. It was like a genuine interest in what we were doing. And it's completely like, you have a product-based business, I have a service-based business, but it's actually created a whole bunch of wonderful opportunities like this one today, where now I get to interview you for this wonderful series. So it's important to not underestimate the value in your network, and not just be like putting stuff out online, but actually having some human connections with people.
Yeah, and going back to that, and like, you know, the values that we set up, it's super tied, for me, that the people that I'm working with, my network, fall into the values of the brand that I'm creating. So it really is without an agenda, to connect with somebody in a slow and grounded way. It has to have that backbone in order for it to feel natural, in order for it to feel mutual, in order to feel like you're actually connecting with another human being, without them just like, I need this, can you do this? I need that, can you do that? That doesn't feel good without that like really true support on the other end, for what you're doing and for what they're doing. I'm finding amazing projects here in Bolivia that have a similar value set, a similar even aesthetic that I wasn't expecting, but knowing what I'm putting out, it's connecting to other people in that very specific way that I couldn't have expected, but falls into my value set. And that's super important, that I don't, you know, steer from my value set when I'm creating a network.
Yeah, and people feel that immediately, if it's genuine and authentic or if it's not, and they feel it in an interaction with a human being, but they also feel it through content that goes out on social media. Like, you can feel if there was intentional thought behind the post. Like, we underestimate like energetically, like what is behind what goes out energetically. I think it's really important to pay attention to that. I just want to share Elvira saying, beautiful profile reflecting your educational background. I love the color palette. And yes,
Oh, thanks, Elvira.
Judith, this is being recorded, and the recording is going to be in Ecom Connect after as well. Absolutely. Okay, so let's dig into money, which is a topic that we don't talk about a lot. And last week we had a wonderful session with Michelle Cooper on cash flow management, and she's also a profit first professional. So I know that the way in which you manage your cash flow has had a huge impact on the growth that you've been able to create for your business. And again, it comes back to just how you do things so intentionally. You intentionally allocate money for specific things in your business. So can you talk to us a little bit about how you manage your cash flow, and maybe any tips or wisdom that could help people here with that topic?
Yeah, something that was actually pretty important. I guess I started doing this very intentionally. I mean, it's not that old of a company, but maybe a year and a half. It's a 2-year old company. Something that I did to make sure that any income that comes in from sales is allocated to my materials and my artisans. so that I know that I can produce another one. And really that's just to guarantee the sustainability of the business. But it has also created this kind of peace that you know that your body, your structure, your business is sustainable. And that is the biggest peace of mind that one can have. Honestly, I feel like there's more care that goes to my business than a lot of things that I do. And this one was super important to kind of feel very secure in the way that I'm allocating money and cash flow. And the biggest thing was material and artisan allocations that without I would be not.
Right. So clearly you're always prioritizing your artisans having work. Like that seems to be really important to you. It's like the top priority all the time. And I feel like I remember last time when we were speaking in our pre-chat, you were talking about with COVID, like the one thing you ensured is that like everyone had work, right? Sorry, you're frozen again a little bit.
Yeah, to guarantee there.
Just a sec, you're still a bit frozen. Yeah,
I'm back.
Yeah, go ahead.
Yeah, no, that was super important to me, especially because I have connected with my artisan community on a personal basis. It became this kind of responsibility to guarantee their work and their lives. And through COVID, I didn't know that I was gonna, walk out the street, but I knew that the people that for me had job and they had something to eat with and live with and support each other with. That was, I guess, super, super important, especially because I started out the business in political turmoil.
Right.
And that was a real kicker for, okay, what's important? What can you do? How are you going to structure your business in a way that guarantees they're still working, and you're working a little bit more behind the scenes to get things made and sold.
That's incredible. Yeah, and I think that's also just a really great strategy to always ensure that you're a little bit above survival, right? So that, and again, this cash flow thing is a way to do that, is like ensuring that there's always enough to take care of the essentials. And if you guys want to learn more about the system that MaPi uses, and I also use this system in my business, it's called Profit First. I'll actually put the link in the chat of the book. It's really wonderful. And if you want to learn a little bit more about that, in Ecom Connect, if you go into our events section, into past events, you will see the session that we had last week with Michelle Cooper, and she talks a lot about that. So I'm just going to pop this in the chat for everyone, because it does have a huge impact. So do you still offer yourself the pleasure sometimes of making a piece yourself? Do you play with that sometimes, or are you more in like the visionary stuff now?
It's been a minute.
Yeah.
It's been a minute, but it is something I actually, at the beginning of the year, did the Artist's Way. I don't know if you're familiar with that, if the community is, but it's a really, really sweet just way of connecting with yourself and creative ventures. More than ventures, creative, like nature.
Yes.
And it was something that I did at the beginning of the year, was okay, go back to the wheel, go back to clay. And really for me, it's the energetic quality of centering, of throwing on the wheel, of just slowing down. I mean, the pieces take time. It's just a different window. I do it every once in a while. I wish I could do it more. I haven't done it since I did the Artist's Way, but it is, it's important.
Yeah, nice. Can you give us a little 360 view of your cup that you have now? I would love for everyone to see one of them she's using this morning, which is so gorgeous. Yeah, so elegant and natural at the same time. Like you feel, it just feels like you're holding a piece of nature, which is so beautiful.
Yeah, that's exactly it. Yeah, when I, go through the design, and yeah, it's minimalist in design, but the hand of the wheel and the hand of the clay is still in the piece, and that makes it, just softens it a lot.
Yeah.
Oh, thanks, guys.
Beautiful, indeed, amazing, so nice. Okay, I would love to open up the floor for people who might have questions or comments or just want to share anything. So the one you would like to carry on at the morning. If you have any questions, you can either put it in the chat or just unmute yourself. We can have a conversation with MaPi. So don't be shy. Maishwar, yes. Please unmute yourself. Can you hear us, Maishwar? Okay. Hello, 2 minutes. Okay, he's working on something. In the meantime, is there anyone else that would like, you can raise your hand if you want to ask a question or share a comment, or just unmute and go ahead. Don't be shy.
Yeah, I'm an open book, so anything that you guys want to learn or need tips with, I'm happy to support.
Maishwar is working on his connectivity.
Hello.
Hi.
I would like to know more how you make it to transfer your brand from casual items that you use in a daily basis to very sophisticated designs and items that you will be glad to have with you. So what is the secret?
Good question.
A lot of it is my aesthetic background with architecture and more of this kind of push towards minimalism. But I do love to contrast that. It's like important for me to have this minimalistic aesthetic, but also have this very natural, very soft piece, and that is guaranteed actually by the unknown. So that's guaranteed by the hand of the artisan, by the specs in the clay that I would not be able to control. So it is this kind of a play that is super intentional, but it is kind of where I want to go and my intention behind the designs that I create. Yeah.
Christine says it's also interesting. I would like to know, how do you move your pieces from Bolivia to the USA? How does the logistics work? Yes, exporting, selling international, bringing that to the US.
Yeah. Yeah, so it's really interesting, actually. Bolivia doesn't have a mail system, which is crazy. There are services that and kind of more like brokers that, I mean, there is commerce, it's just there is no internal mail system. So in Bolivia, the logistics are through couriers or through sending it myself or having people support me in that role. But in the US, I do work with a broker, an agency that helps me connect with the US to ship the goods there. And then since I span both Bolivia and the US, I pick up on the other end and store there for e-commerce and then just ship out of Miami is my base in the US.
Okay, so you actually bring some products over yourself.
I'm sorry?
I said, so you actually bring some products over yourself as well.
Yeah, I do. But a lot of those myself are, tests or things of that nature that are smaller. But for the logistics is the agency, shipping, whether it's container shipping or flight shipping, depending on what I'm doing, and then getting it on the other side. However, I know that there is a DHL commerce service that is worldwide, e-commerce service. All you have to do is guarantee that you're sending out 5 times a month, and then you're shipping out that way. That's something that might be a resource for you all.
Okay, great. Great. Maishwar, are you ready to ask a question?
Yes, Jenny.
Hi. Go ahead.
I'm sorry, my background was not good. That's the reason I was managing myself.
It's okay.
Hi, MaPi. Very good morning to you, and day greetings to everybody. Namaste to you all. Let me take this opportunity to congratulate you and Uma Ceramics for sharing this wonderful story about your business, and also congratulate your business supporting ceramic artisan across Bolivia. It's incredible what you're doing. Myself, Maheshwar, I'm a managing director for Maini Export. Our brand is Zasya Handicrafts. We are based in Hyderabad, southern part of India. And we are helping artisans across India in various forms of arts and crafts. We are presently collaborated with more than 10,000 artisans in product categories like home decor, home furnishing, tableware, and fashion. Coming to the tableware, we are connected with more than 1,000 artisan ceramics.
Wow.
So a lot of product line is there, like mugs are there, cups are there, bowls are there, plates are there, diffusers are there, a lot of products are there. Just wondering whether you have any queries, mass queries in Bolivia, or you will be getting any mass query from USA, where you need external help, we can help you out.
Oh, thank you. I really appreciate it. Yeah, no, it's amazing to work with thousands of artisans. That's such a joy and a pleasure. But thank you for your support. It is something that I'll keep in mind as I grow. I'll probably need the help.
Why? Because India has a huge potential for artisans. We have around 7 million artisans across India. So, if in case if you need any external help, we are always there to help you out.
I was actually very much thinking about your brand, Maishwar, as we were speaking. I had a conversation with Maishwar not too long ago about how I felt like it would be so powerful for him to bring storytelling into his brand. Storytelling from the artisans, of like what they're creating and why. But even Maishwar, your own story that we were talking about last time, about why you created your business. And so I'll just quickly give a little recap, because it's so I'm still very inspired by the story. Maishwar wanted to serve his country by going to the army, and he wasn't able to. And so instead of just dropping that dream to serve his country, he created his business so that he could support his country through supporting the artisans. And those kind of stories, clients want to hear that. Like, they want to understand the why behind your business. So yeah, I was thinking a lot about your business, Maishwar, as we were speaking. And I think it's important for everybody to know that, like, the why behind what you're doing is actually really important and really interesting for your potential clients. Yeah.
Thanks, Jenny. Thank you so much. It means a lot to me.
You're welcome.
Yeah, that story is beautiful. It's very inspiring.
I know. I was like teary-eyed when he first told me. I was like, why is that story not like on your website somewhere? We need to hear.
We are working on it. We have some issues. That's the reason we couldn't able to post up on our website. We are working on it.
Good. Very exciting. John, would you like to pop in? I see your camera on.
It's interesting to see Maheshwar looking coy, right? He's got things to talk about.
Yes.
MaPi, can I just pick up on something? And Jen, if I'm out of line, just throw me off. But you were talking about your artisan network, and then you were talking about wanting to reach out to the women in your community, right? Can I just add another dimension to that? Because we've been instrumental in putting the elders together, right? So we've created one chapter in South Africa where we just actually started on gardens and getting the community to feed themselves. And we're looking at impacting about 600,000 people and things like that. But one of the things that we did do is we were looking for more resources, and we reached out to women in business. And they're now actually joining us. You're going to say, well, how are the elders going to fit into this? And so what I would offer is that, hey, they're there, they can offer coaching or mentorship or just advice. You know what I mean? And this is what's happening in the community, especially in South Africa. We're trying with the hotel industry here in Switzerland. But it was just, if you, offering you as well, like Mahesh did, if you want to look at setting up a chapter, we've got everything on our website. We've got the experience of people just to talk with your elders there to get together to help the community. But what you could do is initiate them or be the catalyst to initiate them to help with your dreams as well. Do you get what I mean? So you're just building a resource that can help you achieve more of your dreams, right? Or your intentions. I don't know if that makes sense.
It does, yes. And I definitely think that you and Maheshwar should have a little coffee chat. I know that you have so many wonderful ideas, John. And yes, again, this comes back to the power of collaborations that we were talking about, with MaPi before. It can literally make a huge difference in the growth, success, visibility, all of it in your business. You're welcome, Maheshwar.
The actual intention was to tell MaPi that she could add these elders to her focus as well. That's where I was coming from. Wow. Right. Yes. So she's got the artisans and she wants to reach out to the ladies, reach out to some seniors, get them together and say, hey guys, instead of messing around, help me to achieve goals and help out in the community. And what we did is we created an association here globally with the intention of getting it global and drawing on experiences from other people, right? So, okay, sorry, Jen, if that's okay.
Yeah, John, to pull from what you're saying, and it's not something that I mentioned, but this craft is ancestral. Like this craft is handed down from the elderly to their sons and daughters and their daughters and sons, and it's really what they know has been from their family. And it is a joy to work with a lineage more so than a person. It brings everything to life in my opinion.
Yeah. Thank you. I see we have Rima who has her hand up as well. Go ahead, Rima.
Hi, MaPi. I really love your work. I love your story. I just have something to say related to what John mentioned. I'm Lebanese. I live in Lebanon. We have a cosmetics company. We're second generation in the business. We do soap and body products. We inherited the business from our father, but then we're based in Tripoli, north of Lebanon, where all the handicrafts like soap, copper making, ceramics, wood making, glass blowing are family businesses. actually they're pretty small businesses. And it's true what you said, MaPi, that they learn it from the fathers and stuff. But then the problem is the government doesn't really take care of these businesses at all. And unfortunately, if you look at the UNESCO website, UNESCO says the handicrafts are businesses related to underprivileged areas. It's so unfortunate that they label it like that. If you read about it on UNESCO, when I approached, so I don't make these kind of crafts. I make soap, and I collaborate with these handicrafts to make really nice gift for corporate gifts and stuff. And then most of them are older men. When I approached them to do some work, they were like, "Oh, you little girl, what do you know? It's not gonna work." And I'm 45, I'm not a little girl. So, you know, it took me a while because they're all older men. It was very, very hard to convince them to work with me. Eventually, we did really great stuff. And you know, it's just trying to convince them, work with me. You may have better business, you know, more inquiries and stuff. But unfortunately, they're not handing down these businesses to their kids. Kids are either emigrating or doing something else. You know, unless some of them did take the business, they introduced technology to that, and they kind of took it somewhere else. So I just wonder, with your work with your community, why is it taken that handicrafts are, you know, mainly for underprivileged areas, people who work there, and they're not really making a lot of money, they don't have great exposure? What do you think can be done to help them get you know, better business?
You know, I honestly believe that businesses like mine and yours actually create that impact. So one thing that I mentioned, for instance, was that I approached a lot of artisans that were mass producing basically their goods because they weren't able to get the income they needed from working on the wheel. So for me, again, it goes down to the money impact of how what you are supporting grows, right? So if you would imagine it like water, that you are watering a plant that will grow. And for me, it's offering consistency to these people to be able to expand the impact and actually support these kind of structures that will pass them down to other people. And to be honest, I've found that as soon as there's something in the community that is becoming more successful, there's a flock that goes to that person and wants a little bit of access to that stability. And I really believe in that form of commerce to create impact. I don't know if that helps you, Rima, but it really goes to say, keep going and show consistency to create an impact with these men who are giving you a hard time.
It's okay. It's getting a bit different, but you know, it's all about. I think it's all about the financial situation, because most of the raw ingredients they use, they have to import it from outside of Lebanon. So that's really costly for them to be able to manage their production and stuff. But yes, your answer was helpful. Thank you.
Yeah, and I just want to add there that you know, it's entrepreneurs like you guys that will be able to create that shift and that change. There's a company that I buy from called Legacy Cacao. We were talking about this before, MaPi, and I listened to an interview by the business owner the other day, and she was talking about how she has defined her company as not for profit, not for profit, but for fair profit. And same thing, it's like these women in Guatemala creating the magic that is this cacao, and it's coming from like a long ancestral line. And the way in which she set up the business is very similar to you, MaPi, is that one is like honoring these women's times and expertise in a fair way with really fair, like more than fair wages, and offering consistency. And supposedly this community where this cacao is made, which was living in a lot of poverty before, has like totally transformed just from this one company acknowledging and caring for these artisans in a more fair way. It's like literally that chain of poverty is being broken because the business owner is taking clear, fair steps to create that change. And I think that yeah, we need more and more business owners doing this versus taking advantage of artisans, because I think that happens a lot as well. The business name of the cacao is called Legacy Cacao. Yeah. Is there any other questions? We're pretty much at our time, so I think we will let MaPi go back to the rest of her work day. But MaPi, it was so nice to have you. It was such an honor to interview you. You know how much I love you and your business, and you are such a wonderful example of an entrepreneur that is not only successful, but creating impact and doing it in just a really intentional way. So thank you for spending time with us. I'm just going to start quickly a poll. If you guys have just like 2 minutes to answer, there's only like 4 questions. It's really quick, yes or no. In the meantime, we are going to put this recording in Ecom Connect. So I'm going to put the .org. If you are not part of the community yet, you can sign up for free. If you go to the events section, we always put the link to the recording in the event description. You can look at past events. We also have our learning tab with videos and resources. All of our recordings go in there. There's a whole ton of content there for you guys to dig into, past interviews, past webinars, and we will be posting the link to this recording in the community as soon as it's up. So thank you again, MaPi. It was so nice to have you.
Thank you. It's been a pleasure to be with you all. And hopefully I was able to give you guys some ideas and things to work on with in the coming days and years.
Thank you. Absolutely. And thank you everyone for joining us today. And we will see you in the community.
Bye.
Bye.